What's up, Life Designers? Welcome to this week's episode of Intentional Tuesdays. This week we are going to be returning to the Blue Zones. If you haven't been following along, the Blue Zones are 5 locations throughout the world where the inhabitants live to a disproportionate number of people living into their hundreds. And not only do they live longer, but they live with a much higher quality of life, retaining their mobility and their mental faculties much more so than any place else in the world. So they're really fascinating locations. I had the good fortune to be able to visit the Blue Zone in Ikaria, and it turns out there's a lot of commonalities across these 5 different Blue Zones, a lot of things that we can learn and take from them and apply to our own lives. So that is what we are up to here today. Specifically, we are going to be talking about the idea of purpose. Now, it turns out that in the Blue Zones, many of the elders have a strong sense of purpose, and it's believed that this attachment and this meaning in life, this reason for getting up in the morning, is a primary factor that's contributing to their health and their longevity. Now, I think, of course, the idea of purpose applies to anybody at any age. I believe, and my experience has been that a strong connection to purpose and meaning also translates to higher energy, more focus, and greater resilience in the face of challenge. Whenever I'm connected to my purpose and feel like I'm living my life what I would call on purpose, I feel like I'm much more energized and much more able to overcome obstacles and to get things done. And I'm sure if you've had a taste of purpose in your life, you can appreciate these things as well. On a more personal level, I believe very deeply in the notion of purpose. I think that anybody can discover their life purpose. And in fact, one of the most enjoyable things that I get to do in my work is to help people to uncover their life purpose and develop a connection to that purpose. So purpose is very powerful in life. It's also, I find, to be very intimidating for people. There's this sense that purpose has to be something grand and permanent and complex. And as a result of that belief, I think a lot of people don't pursue their purpose in life, and that's a real tragedy. So I think it's useful to have alternatives to the traditional notion of life purpose, and that is what we're going to be discussing in today's video. Some of the more accessible alternatives to purpose. So if that sounds interesting to you, then stick with us because we're going to jump right in. The first alternative is, I mentioned in the write-up of the blog down below, is just understanding your contribution. Whatever system or community that you happen to be in, whether it be your family or your church or your company that you work for, noticing your contribution and really honoring that contribution, recognizing it, reminding yourself every day, this is my contribution, this is why I do what I do. It's a really powerful move. It's one I think that we don't make often enough. We tend to just focus on doing the work, which is really unfortunate. The second alternative is one that they mention in the Blue Zone book, and that is to learn something new. And this can come in any form. It could be in the form of taking a class, or maybe even taking up a new hobby, or learning how to play a musical instrument, or learning a foreign language. Anything that requires you to immerse yourself and really focus your attention on developing some new skills. That focus and that attention essentially becomes a proxy for a life purpose. And in the Blue Zone communities, the folks in their later years who decided to take up a purpose, or a hobby, really got a lot of energy and a lot of motivation out of it, and turns out to be a really useful activity. Now, perhaps a more modern application of the same idea would be goal setting. And, obviously, we talk about goal setting a lot in a professional context, but we don't usually link it to the notion of kind of life purpose. The idea of setting goals can be a nice proxy for that kind of broader purpose, because for that time of your life that you're focusing on that particular goal, that will become essentially your purpose. So you'll get a lot of the benefits of having, a deep connection to your life purpose in kind of a temporary, compartmentalized format. So the last alternative to traditional life purpose that I will offer here is to become part of something, to join some kind of a group or a community that you value and that in turn values you and your participation in that group. Humans are very tribal in nature, and being part of a community, being part of a tribe is a really powerful, motivating force. And there are obviously many benefits to being part of a community. For example, typically when you become a member of some kind of a community, it affords you opportunities to make a contribution. In order to support that community structure, usually there are activities or opportunities for people to do things to contribute in a positive way. So simply by becoming a member of a community, you then have more opportunities to kind of create that contribution, which we already talked about. In addition to being part of a community, there's also that support structure. So in your later years, of course, that has other benefits, more practical benefits of just being connected with other people and having people there who can help you with various things that you might need in your life, logistical things, practical matters. So, being part of a community really at any stage is incredibly powerful and can serve as a really nice proxy to having a deep sense of a life purpose. And perhaps a modern adaptation of the same concept would be looking at the organization where you are employed and noticing the extent to which you connect with their mission and their values. I know that a lot of companies out there now have mission statements and values, but they're not really living those. But if you happen to be working for an organization where you do connect deeply with their mission and their values, then that can be a proxy for having your own personal life purpose. It then becomes about being supportive of the company's purpose and the company's mission in the world. And again, it's just another way to get the benefits of having kind of a purposeful existence without necessarily declaring something to be your life purpose. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you found this exploration of purpose useful. The benefits I believe very deeply in connecting with your life purpose, so it's well worth your effort to explore this topic deeper. And as always, I appreciate your time and your attention. And if there's anybody in your life that you can think of who might be interested in the Intentional Tuesdays, please send them our way. It's as simple as just providing your email address and we'll get you signed up for the weekly distributions. They'll be sent right to your inbox, and we always appreciate having more listeners and more readers. So the more the merrier. So with that, I will wish you a good week ahead, and I wish you all the best. Until our paths cross again, prosperous journey. Take care.